The evening settles gently over the western sky, casting long shadows across a land shaped by glaciers and time. Far from the cities and noise, the Canadian Rockies rise in quiet grandeur, their jagged silhouettes softened by dusk. A light breeze stirs the tall spruce and pine, carrying the earthy scent of moss and mountain air. Here the rhythm of the wild is slow and steady, inviting the weary traveler to pause, breathe deeply, and listen. Snow-fed rivers meander through deep valleys, whispering stories as they pass by rocky ledges and golden meadows. Elk graze quietly in the open fields, while distant mountain goats tread silently along narrow ledges high above. The light dims slowly, revealing the first stars shimmering over the horizon. With each moment, the land grows stiller, wrapping its quiet majesty around all who wander here, offering peace not only to the body, but to the spirit. In this story, we will travel softly through the heart of the Rockies, from turquoise lakes to hidden trails, from historic mountain towns to the quiet corners where silence reigns. We will rest in the warmth of timber lodges, wander along forest paths, and look up at night skies unmarred by city lights. Let the slow, steady rhythm of the mountains guide you now as we begin our journey into the heart of this timeless land. Welcome to Bedtime Travel Stories, where soothing tales and gentle narrations take you on a tranquil journey through the world's most enchanting places, right from the comfort of your bed. Unwind and travel with us as we explore the globe one story at a time, helping you relax and drift into a peaceful sleep. The morning arrives with the softest light brushing the mountain peaks, painting them in hues of rose and gold. A quiet train pulls into Banff station, its polished metal reflecting the morning glow. The air is crisp, pure and cool on the skin, filled with the scent of pine and distant wood smoke. Visitors disembark slowly, their pace already adapting to the rhythm of the mountains. With every step onto the old wooden platform, the pulse of city life slips further away. Banff is more than a town. It is a haven, cradled within the towering arms of the Rockies. Steeples of granite rise like silent sentinels above tidy streets and alpine lodges. The shops and cafes seem to have grown naturally among the evergreens, and warm pastries fill the air with the fragrance of cinnamon and butter. Elk wander near the outskirts without fear, moving gently through the tall grass near the riverbank. The Bow River curves through the valley like a silver ribbon, its glacial waters gleaming in the morning sun. Just beyond, the Banff Springs Hotel stands proudly, a castle of stone nestled in the trees. Its halls echo with stories from another era, yet everything inside is hushed and calm, draped in wood and quiet velvet. From the hotel terrace, the view opens across the valley floor, where golden poplar leaves flutter like coins in the breeze. A short drive away, the turquoise waters of Lake Minnewanka rest between forested slopes, barely rippling under the gaze of distant peaks. Canoes float silently across the surface, each stroke creating a small trail of circles that vanish quickly into stillness. On the shoreline, a couple sits in the shade of a lodgepole pine, passing a thermos of coffee back and forth. Laughter is rare here, not from sadness, but because the land encourages silence and reflection instead. Following the gentle curve of the Bow Valley Parkway, each bend in the road reveals a new kind of wonder. Herds of bighorn sheep graze along the rocky ledges, and now and then a black bear can be seen moving through the underbrush. The road is quiet, less traveled than the Trans-Canada Highway, and that is its charm. Pullouts invite you to stop, to breathe, to listen. Johnston Canyon offers the soft sound of water over stone. The pathway carved into the rock itself leads to waterfalls that tumble in delicate sheets. Moss grows thick and emerald on the canyon walls, and even the smallest droplets catch the sunlight in dancing sprays. Visitors speak in whispers here, as though trying not to wake the forest around them. Back in Banff, as the light softens once again, small fires are lit in stone hearths. The scent of wood smoke and roasting vegetables drifts from the windows of cozy restaurants, where local dishes like bison stew and Alberta trout are served with warm bread and mountain herbs. The evening grows deeper, and lanterns flicker in the windows, casting amber glows onto cobbled paths. The sky begins to darken, unveiling the slow bloom of stars above Mount Rundle. Wrapped in a woolen shawl on a quiet hotel balcony, a guest closes their eyes. The wind rustles through pine needles below, and the Rockies, so immense and ancient, feel like gentle giants watching over the world. In Banff, the journey has only just begun. The morning light unfolds slowly across Lake Louise, turning the still waters from deep sapphire to radiant turquoise. Behind the lake, Mount Victoria rises with a glacier crowning its summit, reflecting perfectly in the unbroken surface below. The stillness is so complete, even birdsong feels like a delicate thread woven into the silence. A canoe drifts quietly into view, its soft paddles barely disturbing the mirror beneath. Everything feels suspended in time. The lakeside is lined with trails, narrow and winding, shaded by forests of spruce and fir. Along the shoreline, wildflowers bloom in bursts of color, fireweed, columbine, and bluebells all swaying in the breeze. From the banks, the scent of wet stone and pine needles blends with the subtle sweetness of alpine blooms. Small chipmunks dart across the trail, pausing only to sniff the air and vanish into the underbrush. The Grand Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise stands in quiet contrast to the wilderness beyond it. Its turrets and windows gleam in the morning sun, but its interior offers a hushed retreat, stone fireplaces, velvet armchairs, and the aroma of fresh scones and tea. Guests move slowly through the halls, speaking in soft voices, as if afraid to break the calm. From the dining room, every seat is a front-row view to nature's masterpiece. Beyond the lake, the trail to Lake Agnes beckons. The climb is gentle but steady, rising through the forest until glimpses of snow-capped peaks appear between the trees. A wooden tea house greets hikers at the top, perched beside a smaller lake, where clouds drift lazily in the reflection. Warm mugs of peppermint tea and oatmeal cookies offer comfort, as visitors rest and gaze at the still waters and circling ravens overhead. Further up, a narrower path leads to the Big Beehive, where sweeping views of the entire valley unfold. From here, The emerald waters of Lake Louise stretch below like a jewel set in stone, surrounded by rugged cliffs and distant glaciers. The wind is cooler up high, carrying the scent of snow and lichen. Breathing feels deeper here, every inhale filled with the essence of stone, sky, and light. Returning down the path, time seems to slow with every step. Back at the lakeside, the sun has climbed higher, casting a gentle shimmer over the water. A family sits quietly near the shore, passing slices of buttered bannock and cups of steaming tea. In the distance, a soft splash marks the leap of a fish, followed by ripples that disappear almost as soon as they're made. The day matures, yet the light remains soft, filtered through mountain haze. The warmth of the sun contrasts gently with the coolness of the air, creating a balance that soothes every sense. Voices are few, and footsteps muffled by pine needles and moss. Lake Louise holds its silence well, like a guardian of the valley's secrets. As dusk nears, the water grows darker, mirroring the sky above. Shadows stretch long across the stone paths, and the hum of day gives way to the hush of night. In this place where stillness reigns, the heart slows. Sleep comes gently, as if wrapped in the folds of the mountains themselves. The road stretches northward from Lake Louise, winding like a ribbon through towering peaks and deep valleys. Known as the Icefields Parkway, this stretch of highway is less a route and more a passage through wonder. Early morning mist curls low across the road, clinging to riverbanks and forest clearings. The sun begins its slow ascent, spilling gold over ancient granite cliffs. Each turn reveals a new panorama, more awe-inspiring than the last. Waterfalls tumble from cliffs with names as old as memory: Tangle Creek, Panther Falls, Weeping Wall. Their sound echoes softly through the trees, never loud, always part of the mountain's quiet rhythm. Glacial meltwater shimmers in shades of teal and silver, forming pools where elk and moose come to drink at dawn. Ravens ride the updrafts above, their cries brief and haunting. Bow Lake comes into view, cradled beneath Crowfoot Mountain. Its still surface reflects the sky so perfectly that it feels like a second world hidden just beneath. On its shores, an old lodge stands with wooden beams and windows full of light. Inside, the scent of cinnamon porridge and maple-smoked bacon drifts through the halls, mingling with the smell of pine logs burning gently in the hearth. Guests sip warm coffee and stare out in silence. Further along, Pato Lake curves like a wolf's head carved in turquoise stone. The overlook is quiet, save for the breeze rustling through dwarf pines. Wildflowers cling to the edge of the cliff, their delicate stems bent just slightly by the wind. It is a place that invites stillness, a place to stand and feel small in the best way, humbled and grounded by the sweep of the land. The Columbia icefield looms into view like a frozen tide creeping over stone. The Athabasca Glacier spills down toward the highway, its pale surface glowing beneath the sun. Visitors step out onto its edge, crunching over ancient ice with every step. The air is colder here, fresh with the memory of millennia. In the stillness, it's easy to imagine how this land once moved slowly beneath sheets of ice, carving every ridge and hollow. A short walk brings travelers to the Glacier Skywalk, a curved platform of glass suspended over the valley. Looking down, the forest seems a world away. Tiny trees, distant rivers, the shapes of wild things unseen. The sound of wind against the glass is the only reminder that you're suspended in air. Yet there is no fear, only a sense of soaring freedom. Afternoon shadows stretch long across Sunwapta Pass as the road begins its descent toward Jasper. Mountain goats appear along the cliffs, silhouetted against the pale sky, balanced as if born from stone. A pair of caribou cross the road ahead, pausing briefly in the brush before disappearing into the trees. No horns, no rush, just the slow, eternal movement of life through the Rockies. As dusk approaches, the sky softens into layers of lavender and rose. Drivers pull over just to watch. Some sit on the hoods of their cars, wrapped in flannel blankets, sipping hot chocolate from thermoses. No one speaks much. On the Icefields Parkway, the journey is the destination, and the quiet is part of the magic. As the Icefields Parkway gives way to the wide valley of Jasper, the land opens into something quieter, wilder, and even more spacious. The town of Jasper appears nestled among towering peaks, where streets remain unhurried and neighbors wave in passing. Unlike its southern cousins, Jasper feels like it belongs more to the wild than to the world of people. The mountains lean in closely here, and the scent of pine and riverstone lingers in the air. Morning comes with a hush, the kind that belongs to snow-dusted forests and frost-laced meadows. Elk move silently across the school fields and front yards, pausing to graze in the pale light. The stillness is never empty. Instead, it's filled with soft sounds. The crunch of hooves, the trickle of nearby streams, the distant whistle of a train cutting through the valley. Coffee shops open slowly, and steam curls from their doorways like a quiet invitation. A short drive from town leads to Pyramid Lake, framed by forest and backed by its namesake peak. A wooden footbridge crosses to a small island, where benches offer a perfect place to watch the light shift across the water. Canoes wait by the dock, barely moving in the morning stillness. A pair of loons call out across the lake, their voices echoing like music woven from the land itself. The road to Moraine Canyon offers another rhythm altogether. Stone paths carved above roaring water. The canyon narrows as it deepens, and the river below races with a force that contrasts the calm found elsewhere. Moss drapes over every surface, and hanging icicles catch the light like prisms. Each footstep echoes faintly, as if the earth itself is listening. Farther down the valley, Medicine Lake appears and vanishes with the seasons, its water fed by underground rivers that vanish in spring and return in fall. Stories from the indigenous peoples of the area speak of the lake's mystery and power, and even now it feels sacred. A breeze dances across its surface, and the smell of wet stone and autumn leaves drifts through the air. Here nature feels layered, earth and water, myth and presence, silence and song. Moraine Lake awaits at the end of the road, a long stretch of stillness surrounded by ridgelines dusted with snow. Boat tours slip across its surface toward Spirit Island, a tiny grove of trees rising from the lake like a dream. Even the boats move slowly here, gliding rather than sailing, as though the water itself has asked for quiet. The mountains around it are mirrored in the lake, and the air holds the crisp clarity of alpine places. In the evening, the sky above Jasper darkens more completely than most will ever see. This is one of the largest dark sky preserves in the world. Stars reveal themselves in layers, first the brightest, then the constellations, and then, softly, the sweep of the Milky Way. Lying back on a bench near Lac Beauvert, a visitor gazes upward, wrapped in a blanket of stars and silence. Campfires crackle in quiet corners of the woods. Coyotes call out across the meadows, answered only by the wind. Sleep comes easily here, not out of exhaustion, but out of surrender, to the hush, the stillness, and the sense of being gently cradled in the vast, wild heart of the Canadian Rockies. Before the sun rises, a soft blue hue blankets the valley of the 10 Peaks. Moraine Lake lies still, untouched by even the slightest breeze. Its turquoise waters, fed by glacial runoff, seem to glow with their own inner light, mirroring the jagged spires that rise above. Each peak is distinct, yet together they form a protective wall around this hidden sanctuary. The silence here is complete, as though even the mountains are holding their breath. A gentle trail leads from the lake shore to the rock pile, a natural outcrop that offers one of the most iconic views in the world. The air is cold this early, with the scent of melting snow and stone. Visitors gather in hushed reverence, their footsteps soft against the gravel. Cameras click quietly, but mostly people just look, soaking in the view with wide eyes and quiet hearts. The rock-pile trail is not long, but it asks for a slow pace. Along the way, small wildflowers bloom between stones, alpine forget-me-nots and glacier lilies, adding bright flecks of color to the rocky ground. Marmots peek from beneath the boulders, their small forms warmed by the first rays of sun. Above, golden eagles soar silently, tracing wide circles over the valley. Back at the lake's edge, wooden canoes wait beside a small dock. Painted in reds and yellows, they reflect on the water like floating brushstrokes. Paddling out into the heart of the lake, the silence deepens. The water is so clear that the stones on the lake bed are visible, resting quietly beneath the surface like ancient relics. Each stroke of the paddle leaves ripples that vanish almost immediately. A loop trail winds through the nearby forest, where tall spruce and fir trees arch overhead. The path is soft with pine needles and framed with underbrush, where grouse and hares move unseen. Now and then, a shaft of sunlight breaks through the canopy, illuminating patches of moss and fallen branches. The air is rich with the smell of damp wood, clean earth, and wildflowers. The peaks around the valley each have a name, passed down through time and story: Fay, Bolan, Tonser, and more. Their ridgelines catch the light differently as the day progresses, shifting in tone from steel to silver to gold. Clouds gather and pass, creating patterns of shadow that dance slowly across the lake's surface. It feels like watching time move in a gentler way. In the afternoon, as the sun reaches its highest point, the water brightens into a hue so vivid it seems unreal. People sit along the shoreline, shoes off, feet resting in the cold water. There is quiet conversation, shared food, and long stretches of silence. Moraine Lake doesn't demand anything. It simply offers its beauty and lets each person receive it in their own way. As evening falls, the peaks turn purple and the lake darkens once again. The last canoes return to shore and the small crowd thins. A few linger on the rocks, wrapped in blankets or coats, watching as stars begin to emerge. The water reflects the first few pinpricks of light overhead, and once more stillness settles over the valley of the 10 Peaks. In the Canadian Rockies, the forest speaks in gestures rather than words. A rustle in the underbrush, the distant call of a loon, or the crack of a twig beneath cautious hooves, these are the voices of the land. From Banff to Jasper, wildlife moves alongside the rhythm of the seasons, appearing like gentle ghosts in the soft light of dawn or dusk. The experience of seeing them is often brief but unforgettable, and always it's marked by stillness. At the edge of a meadow near the Athabasca River, a moose stands knee-deep in water, its antlers haloed by the golden light of morning. Steam rises around its legs as it drinks, unbothered by the presence of watchers far off on the trail. A pair of hikers, holding their breath, simply pause. The moment passes quietly with no need to speak. The moose lifts its head, then vanishes into the trees. Elsewhere, along the slopes of Mount Norquay, mountain goats pick their way across rocky ledges with impossible ease. Their hooves find purchase on narrow ridges, and their coats, thick and pale, shimmer against the stone. It is a reminder that life thrives in places that seem inhospitable. The sound of distant bells carried on the wind, collars worn by tagged individuals, fades into the background like a lullaby. Black bears are often seen in the spring and summer, foraging near berry bushes or turning stones in search of insects. Their presence demands a respectful distance, and those who spot them do so from inside vehicles or across wide valleys. Despite their size, they move with astonishing grace, melting into shadows as easily as a breeze through grass. To watch a bear is to feel both humbled and deeply connected to the wild. In higher elevations, the whistle of a marmot carries across talus slopes, announcing visitors with cheerful defiance. These little guardians of the alpine realm dart between rocks, sun themselves on warm boulders, and vanish as quickly as they appear. Above them, golden eagles soar on thermals, their wings stretched wide against the vast sky. No trails are needed here, just the unmarked paths of air and instinct. The forest trails, too, belong to wildlife. Deer tracks mark the muddy ground at dawn. The quick flash of a red fox disappearing into the trees leaves only the memory of movement. Beavers build their lodges quietly along winding creeks, working mostly at night, the sound of their construction barely more than a murmur on the water. These animals do not announce themselves. They simply live as they always have. Night brings different creatures to life. Owls glide silently between the trees, their eyes catching the glint of lantern light from cabins below. Coyotes call from ridge to ridge, their voices rising and falling like a song sung only for the hills. In the silence between calls, the forest seems to breathe, and though it is dark, it never feels empty. To see wildlife in the Rockies is not to check something off a list. It is to be reminded that the land is shared, that humans are not observers, but participants in something older, broader, and deeply alive. There is a humility in that realization and a kind of quiet joy. The animals do not need to be near to be felt. And so, as the moon rises above the peaks, a guest sits quietly on a cabin porch, listening. Somewhere nearby, a pine marten moves through the trees. Somewhere farther, the echo of hooves on stone. And everywhere, the quiet knowledge that we are never truly alone in the mountains. Tucked between towering peaks and thick forests, the hot springs of the Rockies have long offered comfort to travelers and wildlife alike. Long before hotels and roads reached this place, indigenous peoples visited these healing waters, recognizing their warmth as a gift from the land. Even now, stepping into the steam on a cold morning feels like entering a world apart, a place where time unwinds and tension dissolves. At Banff Upper Hot Springs, rising steam curls against a backdrop of mountain silhouettes. Snowflakes sometimes fall softly into the mineral-rich water, melting instantly on the surface. The scent of cedar mingles with the sulphur's earthy tang, creating an aroma both ancient and grounding. Visitors speak in whispers or not at all, their bodies suspended in the heat as mist blurs the lines between air and water. Beyond the pools, a trail leads to the Cave and Basin National Historic Site, the birthplace of Canada's national park system. Here, deep within a grotto, warm mineral water bubbles up from the earth, feeding a clear, still pool. The cave is lit softly by lanterns, casting golden reflections on the damp stone walls. The scent of minerals is strong but not unpleasant, and the quiet drip of water echoes gently across the chamber. Interpretive displays tell stories of early explorers and sacred traditions, but the real magic lies in standing still. Breathing in the damp, warm air, a listener can almost hear the echoes of centuries past. The stone walls hold memory, the water holds warmth, and the entire space feels like a pocket carved from time, protected and serene. Up north in the Miette Hot Springs near Jasper, the journey itself is part of the reward. The drive twists through narrow valleys, where stone cliffs rise steeply and wildlife roams close to the road. At the end, the springs await, tucked against a hillside with views that stretch for miles. The pools are hotter here, and the contrast between the crisp alpine air and the water's heat brings a soothing clarity. Surrounding the springs are walking trails lined with aspen and pine, their branches clinking gently in the breeze. Chipmunks scurry across mossy rocks, and the sound of birdsong filters down from the canopy. Some visitors bring books, others simply float, arms stretched wide, gazing up at the clouds drifting overhead. At night, the hot springs become more magical still. With fewer visitors, the pools grow quieter. Stars emerge in the black sky above, and steam rises in delicate ribbons that catch the moonlight. The mountains stand watch all around, their silent presence a comforting shelter. Time slows until it becomes impossible to track. And so, immersed in warmth, the body relaxes, the breath deepens, and thought gives way to sensation. The water cradles the weary like a lullaby, inviting sleep long before bed is found. These hot springs, tucked away in stone and forest, are more than a place to visit. They are places to be restored. When the morning is clear and the air is crisp, the alpine trails of the Rockies call softly to those who seek quiet beauty. High above the treeline, where spruce and fir give way to open sky and wind-swept stone, the world feels more spacious, more ancient. The path beneath your boots is narrow, but the vistas stretch in every direction, across valleys carved by glaciers and ridgelines shaped by time. The Plain of Six Glaciers trail begins behind Lake Louise, winding past the turquoise waters before climbing gently into the high alpine. Along the way, the hum of insects fades, replaced by the occasional cry of a distant bird or the rattle of loose stones underfoot. The valley opens, revealing hanging glaciers that seem to hover, suspended above cliffs streaked with meltwater. Sunlight bounces off ice and snow, casting cool light even in midsummer. At the end of the trail, a small tea house sits nestled among rock and snow. Built by hand, far from roads or power lines, it welcomes visitors with mugs of steaming tea and slices of chocolate cake. The wind sings through the open windows, and travelers sit wrapped in scarves, letting the heat from their cups seep into their fingers. The view is one of distant peaks and deep silence. Other trails lead through wildflower meadows that seem untouched by time. In Yoho National Park, the Iceline Trail offers a different kind of alpine beauty, wet stone, glacial streams, and wide fields where the scent of lupine and arnica drifts on the breeze. Water trickles down from every direction, feeding mossy pools and reflecting the clouds above. The trail is dotted with moments of pause, flat stones that invite rest, bends that frame the mountains like paintings. In the high valleys near Sunshine Meadows, bursts of color cover the ground each summer. Alpine forget-me-nots, glacier lilies, Indian paintbrush, and buttercups blend together in a living quilt. The sky here feels bigger, the clouds closer. Hikers often stop not from fatigue, but from awe. Every step reveals something new. A tiny insect on a petal, a snow patch holding on in shadow, or the perfect stillness of a distant peak. Above all, there is the feeling of being held by the landscape. The rocks beneath your feet feel solid and timeless. The wind touches your skin with a kind of wisdom, as though it has been telling stories to the mountains for thousands of years. Even the air tastes different, clear, sharp, and filled with life. Breathing here feels deeper. Some trails are less traveled, offering hidden meadows with views only the birds usually see. In those places, marmots sun themselves on rocks, ptarmigans dart through low shrubs, and the sky is filled with the slow drift of eagles. The silence is complete, but never empty. It's filled with the unspoken language of stone, sky, and living things. As the day fades and the hikers begin their slow return, the light shifts once more. Long shadows stretch across the trail, and the peaks catch fire with orange and rose. The scent of alpine herbs rises from the ground, warmed by the last rays of sun, and though the legs grow tired, the heart feels lighter, unburdened, expanded, and full. The towns that dot the Canadian Rockies each carry their own rhythm, peaceful, unhurried, and deeply connected to the land around them. They are places where the mountain air feels cleaner, the skies wider, and conversations quieter. Life moves with intention here, shaped by the seasons, the sun, and the slow cycles of snowmelt and new growth. These towns are not escapes from the mountains, they are part of them. Canmore rests just outside Banff National Park, surrounded by a ring of peaks that seem to lean protectively inward. Main Street is lined with bakeries and coffee shops, where the scent of roasted beans mingles with the warmth of fresh croissants. Artists hang their work in sunlit windows, and hikers return from the trails with dust on their boots and peace in their faces. Conversations happen slowly, over mugs of tea or on wooden benches facing the Three Sisters. To the west, the village of Field in Yoho National Park offers a quieter charm still. With only a handful of streets and a single blinking light, it sits nestled between towering cliffs and evergreen forests. Visitors stay in rustic lodges or heritage homes, where quilts and wood stoves offer comfort against the mountain chill. Outside, hummingbirds dart between wildflowers, and the Kicking Horse River murmurs nearby. In Jasper, life follows the rhythm of trains and trails. The historic train station still welcomes travelers arriving through winding mountain passes. Local shops serve berry tarts and warm poutine, and patios fill with voices softened by altitude and fresh air. Bicycles roll past on shaded paths, and dogs nap in sunbeams outside bookshops. Even the clock tower seems to tick more slowly here. Mountains loom in every direction, yet the towns never feel overshadowed. Instead, they feel cradled, protected by the landscape and shaped by its moods. People check the clouds not to make small talk, but to plan their walks, to gauge the temperature of the river, or to wonder how the light will fall at sunset. Nature is not a backdrop here. It is a neighbor, a teacher, and sometimes a quiet friend. The food is as grounding as the scenery. Local cafes serve Saskatoon berry jams, elk sausages, and steaming bowls of root vegetable stew. Craft breweries tuck into corners of town, offering flights of ales named after nearby peaks or forest creatures. Meals are slow, often shared. The clink of cutlery is gentle. The background hum of conversation, always just a little softer than the whisper of wind through the trees. Evenings bring lantern light and laughter. Porch swings creak under thick blankets, and families gather around backyard fire pits to roast marshmallows beneath the stars. The faint smell of cedar smoke drifts between homes, mixing with the cool scent of nightfall. It is a time for stories, not loud or hurried ones, but the kind shared quietly, passed between friends like a pot of tea. In the deepest part of night, when the towns fall silent, the mountains seem to draw nearer. Their outlines glow faintly under the moon, and shadows stretch gently across rooftops and garden paths. It is in these moments, when nothing stirs, that the towns feel most alive, not in their movement, but in their stillness. To walk these streets is to feel part of something larger. To sip coffee beside a trailhead, to watch deer wander down the sidewalk, to hear the train whistle echo through a valley, all of it becomes part of the rhythm of the mountains. And in that rhythm, one finds rest. The journey through the Canadian Rockies draws to a close, not with a grand crescendo, but with a deep and steady quiet, the kind that lingers in pine forests at dawn, in the hush of snowfall across alpine ridges, and in the last light stretching across mountain towns. The paths walked, the lakes gazed upon, and the silences shared have all woven a kind of stillness within. It is the stillness of mountains, unmoving, but always alive. These peaks and valleys are more than a landscape. They are companions, guardians, and reminders of something timeless. Their presence endures beyond the moment, echoing softly in memory like the reflection of stars on a quiet lake. Even now, with eyes closed and heart slowing, the rhythm of the Rockies remains, a breath in the wind, a shimmer on the water, a gentle footstep on forest soil. As sleep arrives, it brings with it all that the mountains offered: peace, presence, perspective. Let the steady strength of stone and snow cradle the dreams that follow. The journey will remain, tucked away in the folds of night, ready to be visited again, whenever stillness is needed most. We hope you enjoyed today's serene journey and found peace in our gentle narration. Do join us next time as we make a relaxing visit to another of the world's most iconic places. Sweet dreams and safe travels until we meet again.